You know, folks, last year going into the 2024 election, I had never heard MAGA talk as much about groceries as they did last year leading up to the election. It's all they talked about. They've made that the topic of conversation. Every time a conversation came up, it was, we can't afford to live in this country. We cannot afford to put groceries on our table. And you would hear people say things like, oh, well, I sure could go for some mean tweets right now if it meant I would get cheaper eggs. And so they talked about it all the way up to the election, and Donald Trump said that they would see prices starting to fall on day one. He said, day one, you'll see the prices coming down. That didn't happen. The prices haven't come down. As a matter of fact, they've went up. And MAGA just completely stopped talking about groceries. The word just stopped. Eggs stopped being talked about. When all we heard all last year was about groceries, all we heard was about eggs. Now, they just stopped talking about it until just here recently. And now they're back talking about groceries, but from a completely different angle. They have come completely full circle, and now they're back to their old shtick, which is to demonize people who receive SNAP benefits. That's been a Republican talking point for many years. And I don't want to sit here and say that this just started with MAGA, because I think it's very important that we understand that the Republicans, even going all the way back to Herbert Hoover and the people that fought against FDR and the New Deal, Republicans have always been about punching down at other people. That's what they've always been about. They've always been about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, but then whenever they can use something as a talking point to try to get a point across, they will. It's absolutely ridiculous, but we should never say that this started with Trump. This started years ago. They have always punched down at people who were on benefits from the government. And now that people are going to be losing their SNAP benefits in November, rather than say, hey, wait a minute, Trump's in charge. He's got the House, he's got the Senate, he's got the Supreme Court in his back pocket. He can do any damn thing he wants to, and plus he has immunity. They still managed to blame this shutdown on the Democrats. And now, instead of taking up and saying we can't afford groceries, somehow or another they can afford it all of a sudden. I don't know how they did that, but they went from we can't afford groceries to punching down to people who aren't going to be able to afford a Thanksgiving dinner this year. Now, I'm not saying that anyone should go over and watch this video unless you're just a glutton for punishment and want to get pissed off today, but there's now a lady on TikTok who has become famous. She's went viral as the food stamp lady, and it's because she sits there in her chair. I'm not going to play the clip, but she sits there in her chair eating like toast with butter on it, and she's munching it, and she's just being sarcastic, like just being an asshole, basically. And she's like, so, for those of you that's not getting your benefits next month, what'd you do with last month's food? And then she munches on her toast. And did you put back? Did you save? Did you prepare for this? Or did you just spend your money on processed garbage? Which, again, has been a Republican talking point for years. They love to punch down at people who just tries to feed their families, and they never punch up at the biggest welfare queens like Elon Musk, who's one of the biggest ones in this country. They never say a bad word about him. But she sits there and she just mocks and ridicules people and makes people feel bad for getting government assistance while she munches on toast and acts like that she's high and mighty and above everybody. Because that's the type of people that MAGA has always been, and they only used groceries last year when they could use it as a talking point. But now they're punching down at people just like they always have. They don't have the guts to punch up at someone like Trump. They don't have the guts to punch up at the status quo. They don't have the guts to punch up to the billionaires and the tech bros. Well, they did when Biden was president. But now that Trump's president, they just all fall in line, and they watch their elitist podcasts like Joe Rogan, and he sits there and puffs his cigars with other billionaires, and they laugh and talk down to all the peons beneath them, and now MAGA just rolls right along with it. But again, I want to drive this point home. This is nothing new. Donald Trump didn't create this. He just put the accelerator down on it, and he made people be more proud to be cruel out loud, but they've always been cruel like this. My grandmother used to tell me stories about growing up in the Great Depression and how that when she was growing up in the Great Depression and she watched FDR bring us out of that, there was people in this part of the world that was calling FDR a socialist and a communist and saying that his government handouts would make people lazy. And then I saw it myself during the 1980s growing up. My dad worked 2 jobs. My mom worked odd jobs. They were 2 of the hardest working people I've ever met. And we still had to have some government assistance from time to time. And I can still remember standing in cheese lines back when I was a kid in the 80s during Reaganomics. And I can remember exactly how that government cheese tasted. It wasn't too bad, actually, but I sure couldn't stand that powdered milk and those cornflakes. They were so bad. But I can remember that. And I also remember feeling shamed then by people who were just a few steps up. And that's the thing. The people that were punching down at us the hardest, they weren't necessarily the big rich people at the top. It was people who was just right here, like here we are, and my parents are still, working 2 or 3 jobs and they're still trying to scrape by, which is what people are still doing today. But you got somebody that's like right here. They're just right out of they can't get the government assistance because they make just a little too much money. And that's the people that punches down the hardest at the people beneath them. And they never look up at the top and punch up at those people because they ain't got the balls to do so. And because it's way more fun to them to pick on someone who is less fortunate. And then they'll go to church on Sunday and sit there and thump their Bible and thump their chest and act like they're some kind of high and mighty Christian. And we all know better than that. Because if they actually read the Bible, one of Jesus' most popular moments is the Sermon on the Mount. And one of his most popular moments is turning, the water into wine and letting the bread rain down from the heavens and feeding everybody there. And I don't ever remember Jesus munching on that bread and saying, "So, what'd y'all do with last month's food, huh? What'd you do with it then? Did you prepare? Are you ready? Guess you're just going to have to go ask somebody else because you're screwed." I don't think Jesus actually talked that way, but you know what I mean. I just picture that Jesus didn't do that. I just picture that Jesus wasn't that condescending asshole. But MAGA, well, actually, I won't say MAGA. Republicans, years before Donald Trump came along and pushed the accelerator down, they found the guy out there that cannot get ahead in this world to save his own ass. He's just barely ahead of other people, though. He's just right here. Here's the totem pole. He's down here, and the rest is down here, and he's right here. And he's just right here hovering. And he's never going to get any higher. He's never going to go up. He's never going to get up there to the spot that he thinks he's going to get up to. And so he just punches down at everybody else because he's bitter and pissed off that he's having to go to work every day and somebody's getting a handout. Somebody beneath me is getting a handout. I know so many people in my part of the world, and yes, I'm going to go here because I live right on the tri-state of Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia, and I have known people in this part of the world that will milk all 3 states. They'll find a way to get an ID, a fake ID, and a fake address in 3 different states, and they'll try to milk all 3, and then they'll get on Facebook and thump their chest and be Trump supporters and act like they're the hardest working people in the world, and they're sitting in the house on their phone arguing with you on TikTok or arguing with you on Facebook or other social media while sitting there putting across this image that they work hard. Oh, and by the way, when they went to digging, from what I understand, and I've not dug too far into it, but I have saw some videos talking about the food stamp lady and how that she used to be on them herself. And of course, there's a video of her saying, "Well, I was on them, but I'm not anymore. I just used them when I needed them," which is exactly what they will say if they get cornered into it. But I just remember one of the worst Facebook arguments I got into probably 10 or 12 years ago. It's been a long time ago now. But one of the worst arguments I ever got into was over government assistance and over food stamps. And then I learned that the guy that I was arguing with, the guy who got mad and deleted me and blocked me and wouldn't look at me in public, that guy was drawing food stamps and didn't work and was living off government assistance, which, by the way, I have nothing against. If you need it, you need it. And there's been times in my life that I've needed it. There's been times in my life that my family's needed it. And we weren't lazy people that weren't working. We were just people that couldn't get ahead in this world because we still can't. Because we've been sitting here all these years, and there's jackasses in this world that still thinks minimum wage should just be $7.25. You should be able to make it on that. It's absolutely ridiculous. But don't ever let people sit and make you think for 1 second that Donald Trump just suddenly did this. This has been Republicans all along. They were always cruel. They were always cold-hearted, going all the way back years ago to our grandparents' era. They were always assholes. And they're just now fully empowered to be so. If Richard Nixon's rolling over in his grave, it's not because he's upset at what Donald Trump's doing. It's because he's upset that Donald Trump was able to do it and get away with it, and he couldn't. If anybody's grandpa's rolling over in his grave, it's not because he was a good person. It's because he was just as big of an asshole as these people, and he's just mad because he didn't get to say it out loud. So, that's who we're up against. We're always going to be up against it, and that's the level of hypocrisy. They went from, "We can't afford groceries," to, "Why can't you afford groceries, huh? Why can't you afford it?" But these people are fired up and ready to vote. And that's what we have to remember every time we go to the poll. I just don't want to be aligned with those people in no way. So I want to make it clear that I vote on the opposite side of the fence. I'm not going middle of the road. I'm not going to write in a third party. None of that shit. No, whatever it takes to defeat that idiocy, that idiocracy, is the side that I'm on. The line is in the sand. I'm over here. You're over there. I don't want to exchange Christmas cards with them later. Like I said, if they want to come back over here, I just got done watching a video before I got on here of a guy on TikTok saying, I was duped. I was duped into believing it. I don't believe in it anymore. Good for you, pal. Glad. Come on over here now and work alongside us, and let's fight this dictator. But when it's over, don't expect a Christmas card from Brando.